Chad Hasty Show, News Talk 790 KFYO. Early voting continuing right now here in the state of Texas and in Lubbock. And joining us to talk about his campaign for a railroad commissioner, one of the candidates in that runoff, Gary Gates, joining us right now on the Chad Hasty Show. Mr. Gates, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Chad. Thanks for letting me visit with you.
Absolutely. Tell our listeners a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, live down in Fort Bend County, which is just southwest of Houston a little bit. My wife and I have been married 34 years. We have a cattle ranch operation down there. And while I have a lot of investments in oil and gas-related companies and even have a gas well on our property, my main business is when I was 19, began buying rent houses and moved to Houston in 86, started a company with 2 employees and buying an 80-unit complex. And now it's grown to 5,500 units and 350 employees. And as our business grew, family grew, after a couple miscarriages, being pro-life, my wife and I decided to explore adoption, and by 1997 we had a total of 13 kids, 11 adopted. And that's a little bit about my background, what I want to do at the Railroad Commission is use my business experience, because, with the drop in commodity prices, this is a time when the Railroad Commission really needs someone with a business background to be able to deal with the challenges that it's facing because of the drop in commodity prices.
Visiting with Gary Gates, who's running for Railroad Commissioner. Gary, I want to ask you a question. In this runoff, the folks over at the Dallas Morning News, they took a swipe at both you and your opponent when they decided not to endorse anyone in this runoff. They said that you have no experience in the oil and gas industry, and that you ran other unsuccessful campaigns for public office and spent millions of dollars doing so. So they question your credentials in running for railroad commissioner. How do you respond to that?
Every newspaper that has endorsed across the state of Texas has endorsed our campaign. Our opponent has not received one endorsement from a newspaper, and Dallas is the only major newspaper that did not make an endorsement. And, of course, I disagree with their summary. I have a lot of investments in oil and gas-related companies, and, I participate as a royalty owner in a gas well. So I'm the only candidate in this race that not only has his own money in oil and gas companies, from upstream, midstream companies, and I'm the only one that actually has royalty interest. So I certainly have a great working foundation of understanding of how the industry works from a variety of different angles, as a mineral rights owner and as someone that invests in oil and gas companies.
What do you think you would bring to this position that your opponent would not?
I think, one, my knowledge and understanding of the industry with having investments and understanding. And then the other thing is I'm the only candidate with the business experience of operating a large business enterprise of 350 employees, and the Railroad Commission has 750 employees. And, and I have faced ups and downs in running my company, and this is what the Railroad Commission is going to be facing. With the drop in commodity prices, the vast majority of its funding for its $180 million budget comes from industry fees. Because that activity has dropped, it's probably facing about a 25% drop in its income. And this is a time more than ever that you need someone with the business experience to be able to deal with the problems it's going to have. Because you can't go in there and solve this by just cutting employees, because the 750 employees, its number one duty is public safety, besides producing our minerals here in Texas. And you can't just fire these employees or let them go, because these employees are needed to continue to do the inspections of the pipelines and current activity that's out there. So you can't solve this by cutting employees. The other thing I bring to the table is I have a great working relationship with the legislature. My opponent is a 14-year former state rep, but yet he only has 9 state representatives endorsing his campaign. I have never served a day in the legislature, and I have 24 state reps across the state of Texas that have endorsed our campaign. And those working relationships are going to be very important to be able to go back to the legislature next session to get needed changes for the benefit of our oil and gas industry.
What changes would you like to see when it comes to the Railroad Commission, if any?
Well, some of them, of course, I believe changing the name, because one thing out here on this campaign trail, people want to know, why is it called the Railroad Commission? Of course, it got its name back in 1890 when it was created to help the farmers to get their products to the market by rail. And then in 1901, when Spindletop was discovered, and everyone was punching holes in the ground, they said, man, what agency can we put this to handle this new drilling activity? And they put it in the hands of the Railroad Commission. Over time, it got out of railroads and totally with oil and gas. But just in the interest of transparency, people need to know, who do I go to if I've got a problem with oil and gas questions or problems? And I think in interest in transparency, we need that. Some of the other changes we need to do is, right now we have a big problem in Texas with abandoned wells that not been plugged properly. And we need to do more, probably having bonding requirements when a producer gets a permit to drill, that in the event that they go out of business or they abandon a well, that there's something, a bond that the state of Texas can go activate to make sure that the funds are there to properly plug that wells. Because we have over here, and it wasn't too long ago, we had 40,000 abandoned wells. And right now the taxpayers of Texas have been having to pay a big part of that by plugging 20,000 wells. And we've got that down now. But during this difficult time now, we may be having a problem where producers may be lower marginal type operators in this low commodity prices. We're probably going to have an increase in abandoned wells, and we need to do a better job in making sure that this doesn't fall onto the back of the taxpayers.
Visiting with Gary Gates, candidate for Railroad Commissioner here on the Chad Hasty Show. Gary, we're about to wrap up our segment. Go ahead and tell folks where they can find out more information about you online and before they head out and vote.
Yes, our website is Gary Gates for Texas, and that will tell you a lot. In fact, from there, you can find out anywhere in the state of Texas. You can tap into our website and find out where your early voting location is. All
right, excellent. Gary, I appreciate your time today.
You bet. Thanks a lot, Chad.
All right, okay. Good luck. Have a good time out there. It's Gary Gates, candidate for Railroad Commissioner here in Texas.